So Kendra, another major topic beyond fraud is really the market. This has been a pretty abysmal couple years. I have coined it the Great Freight Recession. We're in the third year of the Great Freight Recession. What are you hearing on the ground from brokers and carriers? What is the sort of mood right now?
So it's really interesting. I purposefully attend conferences like these in order to keep my ear to the ground and understand what's the sentiment. I will tell you, the meetings and conferences that I went to in the early part of this year, there was this tinge of optimism that I was hearing from some of the largest brokers. They were talking about investing and growing their carrier sales rep teams in anticipation of volume that they expected to see an uptick in over the course of the year. And I thought that was really interesting because I myself hadn't quite seen it in the data. Then as you move through, I think this first quarter, and I was having dinner with a few broker customers last night, and I think the general sentiment is this year may not have the uptick that others were forecasting at the start. Now, I think everybody still agrees that we've seen the bottom, and I think the question is, how long will we persist in this state? There's not resolve to get through the 2024 year, but the optimism has tamped down.
I still am optimistic for the second half. It sounds like you're cautious on putting any sort of enthusiasm on the second half. At this point, I'm just sort of tired of talking about the sort of abysmal period that is this freight recession and want to move on. But unfortunately, I don't get to dictate the circumstances of the market.
Agreed. And we've got, data from the carrier side. We just recently did a survey of a few thousand carriers who say, they've increased the number of broker relationships that they've had actually within 2024 already compared to 2023. So I think it's gone up 13%. So they are definitely trying to get more freight. I think the number of unpaid deadhead mileage has gone up almost 20%. So on the carrier side, I know that they're feeling it a lot as well too. I will tell you though, we still think there's still optimism in the number of carriers that are still in the market. So if you look at where the carrier accounts are now versus where we were pre-pandemic, there's still 94,000 more carriers. It's really interesting to see how much the carrier side of the market has expanded and how it continues to stay that way. That on its own suggests optimism, right? In the carrier space, they hang on, expecting the market to hopefully come back.
But the brokers seem to be keeping them alive and keep them in the market a lot longer because while they may not be profitable, at least to maintain some cash flow, is your data sharing the same sort of sentiment?
Yeah, absolutely. That when you factor in the cost, so everything from fuel costs to insurance costs, inflation, that carriers are regularly not covering all of their expenses. And so they have to be drawing down on cash reserves, right, from 21 and the first part of 22. So we are seeing the same thing. I think we all agree. It's surprising how many have continued to stay within the industry. My sentiment would be if 2024 continues and looks a lot like 2023, then I think we would be looking at, unfortunately, more failures, right, happening for carrier companies by the end. I'll tell you this too, only 9% of carriers who took the survey said they expected to be out of business within the next 6 months. So it's still, right, a relatively small number that would even forecast that right now.
If you look at the volume data, the freight economy is actually doing well. It's the fact that we have so many carriers, unfortunately. I guess fortunate for Truckstop and folks that sell services to small carriers, there is a level of sort of optimism there. But it is a challenging market. It's one that certainly is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. It is a remarkable phenomenon. But I appreciate the optimism. Like you said, I am cautious about what it will look like by the time we hit the end of 24. But look, our business was founded to help small truckers find freight and help that freight find them. So we are always rooting for and cheering for the small carrier to be successful. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that the market turns.
Well, Kendra, thank you so much for joining me today, and look forward to seeing what's next for Truckstop.
Great. Craig, thank you so much for having me.